So, this is a bit different. I'm doing a TBR. What is happening, I hear you ask? Well, I have quite a few book clubs and readathons and things that I want to do videos for this month. So I have a bit more of a structured TBR for the month of November than I do typically, and actually I'm finding that recently a little bit of structure with some wiggle room to allow for mood reading is actually really working for me. So I thought that I would do a classic TBR video and give it a go, and let me know what you think, because I might carry on doing these. It won't necessarily be for all the books that I read in a month, and I won't necessarily read all the books that I mention. This is kind of like my priority list, as it were. So I thought I would start with the books that I am currently reading. So I have quite a few books on the go. It's just worked out that way, it happens sometimes. So I have 2 audiobooks. The first is Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid, which I've had on hold at the library for, I don't even remember when I put that on hold. It was a while ago, and it's finally come in. Actually, it's not that long of a book. I didn't realise how short the audiobook actually was. So it's only around 9 hours long. So because I listen at 1.75 speed when I'm listening to a book for the first time, at least I listen at 2 times speed if it's a reread, I will get through it really, really quickly. But in case by some miracle you haven't heard of Daisy Jones and the Six and you don't know what it's about, it is a fictional story about a fictional 70s rock band giving an interview all about the formation and the life of and the breakup of this band called Daisy Jones and the Six. And it's written in a way that makes you believe that this band is real, and I think Taylor Jenkins Reid has done that really skillfully, because if I didn't know that it was a work of fiction, I would presume that it was non-fiction. So that's done really, really well. I'm about 2.5-ish hours into the audiobook so far, and it's full cast audiobook, so that's really great and definitely makes the interview format work a lot better, so I'm enjoying it so far. The other audiobook that I'm listening to is Blade and Rose by Miranda Hornfleur, which I am reading for a video that I don't want to tell you about, so sorry about that. If you think you can figure it out, then by all means, guesses on a postcard down below. But it's sort of like a fantasy romance type book with non-magical warriors and magicians, and they don't really like each other, and I'm not that far into it yet, but it feels like it's a romance with some fantasy elements. And let me just say that although I'm not very far into this book, so far the characters are really thirsty. You know what I'm saying? And actually to a point where it's aggravating me just a little bit so far, so I'll keep you posted on that one. But that's my other current read. In terms of current physical reads, I also have 2. So first of all, very exciting, I have The Toll by Neil Shusterman, which is the final book in the Arc of the Scythe trilogy. I am around halfway through now. I'm on page 281 of 604, I believe, so it's a nice chunky one, which excites me quite a lot, and I'm enjoying it so far. I, of course, can't tell you what this book is about because it's a final book in a series, so if you haven't heard of the Arc of the Scythe trilogy, it is set in a distant future of the human race where all forms of death have been eradicated, and so the only problem really facing humanity is population control, and therefore scythes have been created to glean people, and gleaning is now the only permanent form of death that exists. And as you can imagine, there is some good and some bad that comes out of the scythedom, and we follow two apprentice scythes, Citra and Rowan, as they start to discover all the politics surrounding the scythedom. And this book actually isn't due out until the 7th of November, but my local Waterstones to my work had copies out early, so if you are keen to pick this one up and you haven't got it yet, do just maybe drop into a local bookstore and see if they have put their copies out early, because I mean, I don't know about you, but I'm super excited for this book and I'm loving it. My other current read is The Wicked King by Holly Black. I was actually reading this when I managed to get a copy of the Toll, so that's why I've put this one down. I'm about halfway through this one as well. I'm on page 178 of 322, so about halfway through this one. Again, this is a sequel, so I can't tell you what this one is about, but the first book, The Cruel Prince, if you haven't heard of it, is about a girl named Jude who is human and has a human twin sister but a half-fae older sister, and her half-fae sister's biological father, try and follow that one really quick, comes to murder Jude's parents basically and kidnap all the children and take them to the land of fairy and raise them as his own. And the Fae are a cruel and evil species, and they treat our human characters very badly, but Jude can dish it out as easily as she can take it. So we follow her dealing with a lot of Fae politics and Fae nastiness, shall we say, and this is the continuation of that story. I'm not enjoying it as much as book one, I have to admit, but I do still like it. Then in terms of rereads for the month, my main priority reread wise is Skyward by Brandon Sanderson, because Starsight, book 2 in this series, is out at the end of the month, towards the 26th. So I hope that I will be able to read Starsight as well this month, but I don't have a copy of it yet, and I don't know what the end of the month is going to look like, so I don't want to put pressure on myself by including it in this TBR, but this I am definitely going to be reading after I finish my 2 current audiobooks, because it's a reread. I'll be able to listen to it quite quickly, and I just want to reread it in readiness for Starsight coming out so that the events of the first book are clear in my mind. It is set on another planet. The human race is underground, and on the surface, pilots protect the underground humans from the attacks that are coming from an alien species. And our protagonist, Spencer, dreams of being a pilot, but her father was a pilot and he deserted during a very famous battle and was shot down and branded a coward. And for some reason they seem to think that cowardice is hereditary and that therefore Spencer will also be a coward and therefore should not be a pilot, but that is her dream, and we follow her dealing with that situation. Then moving on to books that I haven't started yet and that I have not read before. So first of all is my book club book for my book club that's local to where I live. So that is going to be This Is How You Lose a Time War by Amal El-Matar and Max Gladstone. I believe that, I don't have a copy of this book yet, but I believe that it is actually a novella, so a short story, so I should be able to get through it really quickly. I have until the beginning of December anyway, but I will probably try to get to it in November, which is why I'm including it in this TBR. I don't honestly know what this one is about because I tend not to look up what book club books are about. I just go into them and read them. So unfortunately, I can't actually tell you anything about this one, but I will keep you posted on my thoughts once I have read it. Then for my own book club, which I am running through my channel using a chat on Instagram, if you're still interested in joining, then do feel free to leave your Instagram handle down below and I will happily add you to the chat. But we are reading We Hunt the Flame by Hafsa Faisal. So this will be the next book that I pick up once I finish The Toll and The Wicked King. I am doing so well keeping on track with my reading. Can't you tell? Not really. Okay, so this book is one that I also don't know too much about, but I also don't want to know too much about. As far as I know, this book is either Middle Eastern or Arabian inspired, I'm not sure which, so apologies for that, but it follows two characters who by all accounts are legendary and they have to team up to deal with the situation. Again, I don't know much about this book. I've heard really great things about it and that's enough for me. I know that it's young adult fantasy. I don't know much more than that and I kind of like it that way sometimes. So again, sorry, can't give you much information about this one, but I am really looking forward to reading it with some of you, and if there's anyone else who wants to join, again, feel free, just let me know down below and I will happily join you to our chat. Then my final read-along book is More Than We Can Tell by Brigid Kemmerer. This is for a read-along of Brigid Kemmerer's books, which is being run by the Lit Chick, so I will link her channel down below for you, and I will actually be doing a live show with her on Instagram towards the middle of November. There isn't a date set for it yet, but I will let you know as soon as I know when that is going to be. But this is a young adult contemporary novel, which is a companion novel to Letters to the Lost, which I haven't read, and I think that you don't have to read Letters to the Lost to read this, but they are set in the same world. So if you happen to have read both of them and you think that I should read Letters before I read More Than, then let me know down below. But otherwise, I'm tempted to just go into this because I know that Jaden has read Letters to the Lost and is reading this book as well, of course, and I haven't read Letters to the Lost. So I almost think that it would be quite interesting for the purposes of the live show for me not to have read that one so that we can see how our experiences compare. I'm not sure. If you want to weigh in on that, let me know. This book follows two characters, Rev and Emma. Rev has received a letter from his estranged father and escapes into a video game world as a means of coping, and Emma is already in that video game world, which she uses as her own escape from life. But when Rev joins the game, things start to go a little bit wrong. And it sounds interesting to me. I've read A Curse So Dark and Lonely by Brigid, and I really enjoyed her writing style. So I'm hoping that this is going to have a similar writing style. This is one of her earlier books, so I don't know if that's a more recent writing style for her or if that's always been her preferred way of writing, but she has a very straight to the point and simplistic way of putting her story, and it's actually really nice and makes for a really easy read, which I appreciate. So I'm looking forward to seeing how this one compares to that. And then I have a couple of books that I am reading them for a YouTube video, sort of, but well, I am reading them for a YouTube video, but really I'm just reading them because I want to read them. So firstly, I have The Merciful Crow by Margaret Owen, which is a young adult fantasy book about an undertaker and mercy killer, a prince and a bodyguard who join forces to defeat an evil queen. And it sounds like a generic kind of young adult fantasy premise, but there's also crow magic and bone magic involved somehow, and I'm not really sure how, but apparently it's there. And I feel like this could go one of two ways. It could either be brilliant or just really generic and a bit boring. So I'm interested and hopeful that it will swing to the side of interesting and different. That's what I'm hoping for. And the final book on this TBR is The Beautiful by Renee Ahdieh, which is her new vampire fantasy book, which is set in New Orleans in the 1700s, I think? 1872. So 1800s. And it involves a character getting swept up in the vampiric world. And again, that could be quite generic, but actually it's been so long since there's been a generic fantasy vampire book that I'm not necessarily too bothered. I have actually not read anything by Renee before, so I'm looking forward to trying out her writing. And I've heard a lot of hype about this book, so I'm interested to give it a go for myself and relive a little bit of the Twilight era of fiction that we all experienced. And those are the 10 books that I hope to read in the month of November. I also hope to read some more, but we'll see. It depends, I guess, on how busy the month gets. I do generally read more than 10 books in a month, so hopefully I'll be able to achieve this no problem, especially since there are some audiobooks in there. There's one novella, there's a contemporary, so fingers crossed, it's doable. If you have anything planned reading-wise for the month of November, then let me know down below. And if you do want me to do TBRs on a monthly basis, then let me know that as well. Like I said, I'd be interested if you'd be interested. Great sentence structure. But that's it for this one. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video and want to see more like this from me, then do think about hitting that subscribe button, and I hope to see you here again soon. Thanks. Bye.